Captain Jake Morrison stood at the large window of his ship's command center, looking out at something that should not exist. The space in front of them twisted and turned like water, but it was not water. It was something else entirely. Colors moved in patterns that hurt to look at for too long. How long has it been there? Jake asked his science officer. Lisa Grant looked up from her computer screen. Her face was tired. She had been working for 3 days straight, trying to understand what they were seeing. It appeared exactly 72 hours ago, Captain. What? The moment there was empty space, and the next moment this thing was just there. Jake walked over to her workstation. The numbers on her screen meant nothing to him, but he could see the worry in her eyes. Lisa was the smartest person he knew. She was worried? Then he should be worried too. What do we know about it? He asked. Not much, Lisa said. She rubbed her eyes. It's not a black hole. It's not like any kind of space storm we've ever seen. The energy coming from it is completely new. Our computers can't even classify it. Rick Stone, Jake's second in command, walked up to them. He was a big man with a serious face. Captain, Earth Command has been sending messages all morning. They want us to stay away from that thing. Jake looked back at the swirling space anomaly. His ship, the Aurora, was an exploration vessel. They were supposed to find new things, study them, and report back to Earth. But this thing was different. It felt important in a way he could not explain. What do you think it is, Rick? Jake asked. Rick shrugged. Above my pay grade, Captain. But if Earth Command is nervous about it, maybe we should listen. Amy Parker, their navigation officer, called out from her station. Captain, you need to see this. Jake and the others walked over to Amy's workstation. She was young, maybe 25, but she was the best navigator in the fleet. Her screen showed the space around the anomaly. Look at this, Amy said, pointing. At her screen, the thing is not just sitting there. It's creating some kind of path through space, like a tunnel. A tunnel to where? Jake asked. I don't know, Amy said. But the path is stable. A ship could fly through it. Lisa came over to look at Amy's data. That's impossible. You can't just make a tunnel through space. Physics doesn't work that way. Tell that to the tunnel, Amy said. Jake stared at the screens. Every instinct he had as a captain told him to. Stay away from the anomaly. But every instinct he had as an explorer told him to investigate. This could be the discovery of the century, maybe the discovery of all time. Captain Rick said quietly. We should wait for orders from Earth Command. Will take 6 hours to reach us, Jake said. And by then, this thing might be gone. He walked back to the command chair and sat down. The weight of command felt heavier than usual. Whatever decision he made would affect not just his crew, but possibly all of humanity. Lisa, what happens? If we go through that tunnel, he asked. I have no idea, Lisa said honestly. We might end up somewhere else in space. We might end up nowhere at all. We might be destroyed instantly. Or we might discover something amazing, Jake said. Or that, Lisa agreed. Jake looked around the command center. His crew was watching him, waiting for his decision. They trusted him to keep them safe, but they also trusted him to do the right thing. Amy, can you plot a course through the tunnel? He asked. Amy's fingers flew over her controls. Yes, Captain. The path is clear and stable. Lisa, what do our sensors tell us about the other side? Lisa checked her instruments. There's definitely something on the other side. It looks like normal space, but the star patterns are wrong. Completely wrong. Wrong how? The stars are in positions they shouldn't be in. It's like looking at a different part of the galaxy entirely. Jake made his decision. Rick, sound general quarters.
All hands.
Battle stations. Tapped yet. Rick said. Are you sure about this? No, Jake said. But I'm sure we need to find out what's on the other side of that tunnel. The ship's alarm sounded. Crew members ran to their stations throughout the Aurora. In the engine room, Tom Bradley, their chief engineer, made sure the ship's power systems were ready. In the medical bay, Dr. Kate Williams prepared for whatever they might find. All stations report ready, Captain Rick, announced Jake. Took a deep breath. Amy, take us through. The Aurora moved slowly toward the swirling anomaly. As they got closer, the ship began to shake. The lights flickered. Through the window, Jake could see the tunnel opening up in front of them like a mouth. Energy readings are off the charts, Lisa reported. The ship is holding together. Keep us steady, Amy, Jake said. The ship entered the tunnel. Jake felt like he was falling, even though he was sitting in his chair. The feeling lasted forever and no time at all. Then they were through. Port, Jake said, blinking to clear his vision. We're in normal space, Amy said. But Captain, look at the stars. Jake looked out the window. The stars were arranged in patterns he had never seen before. The constellations were all wrong. In the distance, he could see a planet that seemed to glow with its own light. Where are we? Rick asked. I don't know, Lisa said, studying her. Instruments. But we're definitely not in our part of the galaxy anymore. The planet, Jake said. What do we know about it? Lisa ran scans on the glowing world. It's about the size of Earth, but Captain, there are structures on the surface. Big ones. And they're definitely not natural. You mean buildings? Jake asked. I mean cities, Lisa said. Or what's left of them? Jake felt his heart racing. They had found proof of alien life. Not just life, but intelligent life. Civilization. Amy, set course for the planet, he ordered. Captain Rick said, shouldn't we be more careful? We don't know what's down there. It's exactly why we need to go look, Jake said. As the Aurora flew toward the glowing planet, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they had just crossed a line. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they were about to find out they were. Not. The planet grew larger as they approached. Through the ship's telescopes, they could see massive structures on the surface. They looked like buildings, but they were bigger than anything humans had ever built. And they were clearly very old. Life signs? Jake asked. Nothing on the surface, Lisa reported. But the energy readings are strange. It's like the planet itself is alive. Or like something on the planet is still working, Amy added. Jake made another decision. Rick, prepare a landing party. We're going down there. Captain. That might not be wise, Rick said. Maybe not, Jake said. But we came out here to explore. And this is the biggest discovery in human history. As the Aurora entered orbit around the glowing planet, Jake looked down at the alien structures below. Somewhere down there were answers to questions humanity had been asking for thousands of years. They were about to take the first step into a larger universe. He just hoped they were ready for what they would find. The landing shuttle touched down on the alien planet with a soft thud. Captain Jake Morrison felt his stomach flip as he looked out the small window at the strange landscape. The ground was covered in what looked like crystal formations that gave off a soft blue light. In the distance, massive towers reached toward the sky, their surfaces smooth and dark. Atmosphere is breathable, announced Dr. Kate Williams, checking her instruments. Oxygen levels are actually higher than Earth. Normal temperature is comfortable. But Captain, these energy readings are incredible. Jake nodded and stood up. The landing party was small, but well chosen. Besides himself and Dr. Williams, he had brought Dan Murphy, their security chief, and Lisa Grant, their science officer. Rick Stone had wanted to come, but someone needed to stay with the ship. Remember, Jake said to his team, we don't know what we're dealing with here. Stay close, stay alert, and don't touch anything unless Dr. Williams says it's safe. Dan Murphy checked his weapon one more time. He was a former Marine who had seen action on 3 different worlds. But he had never seen anything like this place. Captain, the silence is bothering me. No animal sounds, no wind, nothing. Maybe everything here is dead, Lisa said. But she didn't sound convinced. They opened the shuttle door and stepped out onto the alien world. The air smelled clean, almost too clean. The crystal formations that covered the ground crunched softly under their boots. Everything glowed with that same soft blue light. The buildings are definitely artificial, Lisa said, scanning them with her instruments, but the construction methods are completely unknown. It's like they grew rather than being built. Jake looked up at the nearest tower. It was at least 1,000 feet tall, maybe more. The surface was perfectly smooth, without any visible seams or joints. How old do you think they are? Hard to say without more data, Lisa replied. But from the weathering patterns, I'd guess thousands of years. Maybe tens of thousands. They walked toward the nearest structure, which looked like it might have been some kind of entrance hall. The doorway was tall enough for giants, at least 12 feet high. Strange symbols were carved into the walls around it. "Dr. Williams, what do you make of these symbols?" Jake asked. Kate studied them carefully. They're definitely a written language. Very complex. Some of these patterns repeat, which suggests grammar rules. "But Captain, look at this." She pointed to one section of the wall where the symbols seemed to be glowing brighter than the rest. "The symbols are reacting to something," Kate said. "Maybe our presence, maybe our body heat, or maybe something else entirely." As they entered the building, their footsteps echoed in the vast space. The ceiling was lost in shadows above them. Along the walls were what looked like viewing screens, all dark and silent. "This place feels like a museum," Lisa said quietly. "Or maybe a library." Don Murphy kept his weapon ready, but there was nothing to shoot at. The building felt empty, but not abandoned. It felt like it was waiting for something. They walked deeper into the structure, following a wide corridor that seemed to lead toward the center of the building. As they walked, Jake noticed that some of the symbols on the walls were starting to glow brighter. "Captain," Kate said suddenly, "I think the building is recognizing us." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "The symbols, the lights, they're responding to our presence. It's like the building is waking up." As if to prove her point, one of the viewing screens on the wall suddenly came to life. Images flashed across it too quickly to understand, but Jake could see what looked like star maps, technical diagrams, and pictures of strange creatures. "Lisa, are you getting this?" Jake asked. Lisa was already recording everything with her scanner. "Yes, Captain, but I can't make sense of any of it." "The information is coming too fast." They continued walking, and more screens came to life as they passed. The building was definitely responding to them, showing them things, trying to communicate. But the language and concepts were completely alien. Then they entered a large circular room at the center of the building. In the middle of the room was a raised platform with what looked like a control panel. The walls were covered with screens, all showing different images. "This looks like some kind of command center," Dan said. Jake approached the control panel carefully. The surface was smooth and black, like polished stone. But as he got closer, symbols began to appear on it, glowing with the same blue light as everything else. "Captain, be careful," Kate warned. "We don't know what any of those controls do." Jake reached out slowly and touched one of the symbols. The moment his finger made contact, the entire room changed. All the screens on the walls came to life at once, showing clear, detailed images. The first thing they saw was a star map. But it wasn't like any star map they had ever seen. It showed not just stars, but pathways between them, lines of light. Connected star systems across the galaxy, forming a vast network. "It's some kind of transportation system," Lisa breathed. They could travel instantly between star systems. The images changed, showing the builders of this place. They were tall, graceful beings that seemed to be made of the same crystal material as the formations outside. They moved like dancers, working together to build the massive structures. "They're beautiful," Kate whispered. But then the images changed, again, showing something darker. The crystal beings were leaving their world, abandoning their cities. The screens showed them dismantling their technology, hiding it, preparing for something. "They knew they were going to disappear," Jake said. "This whole place is like a message they left behind." Suddenly, a new voice filled the room. It was musical, like singing, but Jake could somehow understand the words. "Welcome, inheritors," the voice said. "We've waited long for your arrival." The team spun around, weapons raised, looking for the source of the voice. Then they saw them. 3 figures had entered the room, but they were not the same as the crystal beings in the images. These were different. Taller, more angular, with bodies that seemed to be made of living gemstone. "Do not fear," the lead figure said. "We are the Veleth. We have guarded this place since the builders departed." Jake lowered his weapon slowly. "You can speak our language. The archive learns quickly," the being replied. "I am called Kethmer. In your tongue, we have watched your kind for some time, waiting to see if you were worthy." "Worthy of what?" Jake asked. Kethmer gestured to the screens around them. "Of inheriting what the builders left behind. The network you see connects thousands of worlds. but it requires a specific type of mind to operate. A mind like yours. Lisa stepped forward, her scanner still running.
Happened to the builders.
They evolved beyond the need for physical form, Kethmer explained. But they knew others would come who could use their gift. They built this network for you, the inheritors. Kate was studying the Veleth with fascination.
How long have you been waiting?
12,000 of your years, Kethmer replied. We were their servants once, then became their guardians. We have maintained the network, kept it ready for your arrival. Jake felt overwhelmed by the implications. Humanity had just discovered a way to travel instantly across the galaxy. But he also sensed there was more to the story. This all seems too easy, he said. What's the catch? Kethmer's expression became sadder. Not all of my people agree with me. Many believe humans will corrupt the Builder's legacy. There will be those who oppose you. As if summoned by his words, new figures appeared at the entrances to the room. These Veleth looked different, more aggressive, with sharper edges to their crystalline bodies. Velethka, Kethmer said quietly, I had hoped for more time. The new arrivals spread out around the room, surrounding the humans. Their leader, presumably Velthak, spoke in harsh musical tones. These soft creatures cannot be the inheritors, Velthak declared. They will bring chaos to the galaxy. Don Murphy raised his weapon, but Jake held up a hand to stop him. We didn't come here to fight, Jake said. We came to explore, to learn. Came to take what is not yours, Velthak replied. The network must remain pure. Kethmer stepped between the humans and Velthak's group. The builders made their choice clear. These beings have the genetic markers. They are the inheritors. And the builders were wrong, Velthak said. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Jake realized that humanity's first contact with alien intelligence was about to turn into a battle. But before anyone could act, alarms began sounding throughout the building. The Aurora? Lisa said, checking her communicator. Something's happening to our ship. Through the building screens, they could see their shuttle and the Aurora in orbit above, but they were not alone. Other ships were approaching, ships that definitely did not belong to humanity. The Corvani, Kethmer said grimly. Word of your arrival has spread quickly. Jake looked at the approaching alien fleet, then at the divided Veleth, then at his own small team. Humanity had just taken its first step into a much larger and more dangerous universe than they had ever imagined. Well, he said to his team, this just got complicated. 6 months had passed since the Aurora first arrived at Gateway Prime, as the humans now called the Builder World. The planet looked very different now. Human ships came and went through the portal network daily. Construction crews were building new facilities near the ancient alien structures. The colony ship New Horizons sat in orbit, its 10,000 passengers slowly making their new homes on the surface. Captain Maria Santos stood on the observation deck of the New Horizon. Watching the activity below, she was tired. Managing a colony was much harder than commanding a ship. Every day brought new problems, new challenges, and new decisions that could affect thousands of lives. Captain Santos called her assistant, bringing her a cup of coffee. Ambassador Clark is here to see you. Helen Clark walked onto the observation deck looking worried. She was Earth's first ambassador to the galaxy, a job that nobody had ever trained for. Every day she dealt with alien species that humans had never even imagined. We have a problem, Helen said without greeting. The Corvani are blocking 3 more portal routes. They're claiming the network belongs to them by right of conquest. Maria sighed. The Corvani were the biggest military power in this part of the galaxy. They had been using slower-than-light travel for trade for centuries. They did not like humanity's instant portal travel. It was costing them money and power. What does Admiral Morrison say? Maria asked. He wants to negotiate. But the Corvani don't seem interested in talking. Through the window, they could see human and Veleth workers collaborating on a new portal gate. The friendship between the two species had grown strong over the past months. Kethmer had become almost like a teacher to the humans, showing them how to use the builder technology safely. What about the other species? Maria asked. The Zelthani and the Ekmari? Zelthani are scared, Helen said.
They think we're
expanding too fast, changing too much. The Decamari are interested in trading with us, but they're worried about the Corvani reaction. Maria watched a group of human children playing with young Valeth in the colony's central plaza. The children didn't care about politics or trade disputes. They just saw new friends to play with. She wished adult relationships could be that simple. There's something else, Helen said quietly. Admiral Morrison wants to see you. He says it's urgent. An hour later, Maria stood in the command center that had been built inside the main builder structure. Admiral Jake Morrison appeared as a hologram, his image transmitted through the portal network from wherever his fleet was patrolling. Maria, Jake said, we've discovered something. The portal network is bigger than we thought. Much bigger. How much bigger? Maria asked. We've found connections to at least 12 other galaxies. Builders didn't just connect our galaxy, they connected the entire local group of galaxies. Maria felt dizzy. The implications were staggering. Have you tried activating any of the intergalactic portals? Not yet, but Maria, there's more. Some of the portals are failing. Entire sections of the network are going dark. We think something is attacking the system. Before Maria could respond, alarms started sounding throughout the command center. Lisa Grant, who had been promoted to head of research, ran over to her instruments. We're getting reports from the outer colonies, Lisa said. 3 systems have gone completely silent. No communications, no portal access, nothing. Jake's hologram flickered. We're getting the same reports. Something is moving through the network, destroying everything in its path. Tom Bradley, the chief engineer, looked up from his workstation. Admiral, the portal energy readings are all wrong. It's like something is draining power from the entire network. Can you fix it? Jake asked. I don't know. This is builder technology. It's beyond anything we understand. Kethmer entered the command center, his crystalline body reflecting the urgent red lights of the alarm system. Behind him came several other Valeth, including some from Velthak S. Faction, the dark tide has begun, Kethmer announced. We feared this day would come. What's the dark tide? An enemy from beyond the galaxy, Kethmer explained. The builders fought them long ago. They thought they had one, but the enemy was only sleeping. Veltek stepped forward. Despite their earlier conflicts, he looked genuinely frightened. The dark tide consumes entire worlds. They leave nothing behind but empty space. What do they want? Jake asked through the hologram. They want to return to their own universe, Kethmer said. But their universe is dead, so they try to remake this one in its image. Lisa was studying the readings from the failed portals. The pattern of attacks is systematic, cutting us off from the outer edges of the network. Working there. Way toward the center. Working their way toward us, Maria realized. How long do we have? Jake asked. At current rate of advance, they'll reach the core systems in 3 months, Lisa calculated. Maybe less. Tom Bradley was working frantically at his console. I'm trying to boost power to the remaining portals, but every time I fix one connection, 2 more fail. The network is dying, Kethmer said sadly. Without the builders to maintain it, it cannot defend itself against the dark tide. Then we need to find another way to fight them, Jake said. What did the builders use against them before? Builders sacrificed themselves to stop the dark tide, Kethmer explained. They poured their life energy into the network, creating a barrier that held for thousands of years. But now that barrier is failing, because we're using the network, Maria said, understanding. Every time we activate a portal, we weaken the barrier. Yes, Kethmer confirmed. The network was meant to remain dormant until the threat passed completely. But the inheritors arrived before that could happen. An uncomfortable silence filled the command center. The humans had inherited amazing technology, but they had also inherited an ancient war. We need to evacuate the outer colonies, Jake said. Finally, bring everyone back to the core worlds. That's 10 million people, Maria protested. And what about the other species? The Corvani, the Zelthani, all of them? We warned them, Helen said. Whether they listen or not is up to them. Over the next few days, the evacuation began. Human ships raced through the portal network, collecting colonists from the outer worlds. But the dark tide was moving faster than expected. 2 more systems fell before the evacuation ships could reach them. The Corvani, faced with the destruction of their trade empire, finally agreed to work with the humans. Their battle fleets were impressive, but their weapons had no effect on the dark tide entities. The enemy ships seemed to be made of living shadow, absorbing energy attacks and growing stronger. The Zelfani closed their borders and prepared for siege. The Decamari offered to help transport refugees, but their own worlds were too far from the core to be easily defended. As the crisis deepened, something unexpected happened. The various factions began working together. Velthax Valeth brought their knowledge of builder technology. Corvani provided military expertise. Even species that had been enemies for centuries put aside their differences to face the common threat. In the command center on Gateway Prime, the war room was crowded with representatives from a dozen different species. The holographic display showed the dark tides advance like a spreading infection across the galaxy. "We need a new strategy," Admiral Morrison said. His fleet had fought several battles with the enemy, but every engagement ended the same way. The dark tide consumed everything they touched. Dr. Kate Williams, who had been studying the captured enemy material, made a discovery. "They're not really alive," she announced. "They're fragments of a dead universe trying to rebuild themselves. Using our matter and energy? Can we reason with them?" Helen asked. "I don't think so," Kate said. "They're driven by pure need. They don't want to destroy us personally. They just need our universe to survive. And we need to find a way to give them what they want without letting them destroy everything," Maria said. Tom Bradley looked up from his calculations. "I think I know how to do that." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "The builders use their minds to power the network," Tom explained. "If we could link every human consciousness through the portals, we might be able to create something the dark tide would accept instead of our real universe." "You're talking about creating an artificial universe," Lisa said. "That's impossible." "Maybe not," Tom said. "The portal network is basically a giant computer. If we use it right, we might be able to simulate an entire universe for the dark tide to inhabit. And if it doesn't work," Maria asked. "Then we all die anyway," Tom said simply. The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. "We're talking about the most dangerous experiment in galactic history. But with the dark tide advancing and conventional weapons useless, it might be their only chance." "How long would you need to set it up?" Jake asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3, Tom said. "But I'd need every human portal operator in the galaxy to participate. And I mean everyone. If even one person refuses, the whole plan fails." Maria looked around the room, at all the alien faces, then at the holographic image of Admiral Morrison. 6 months ago, they had been explorers looking for new worlds. Now they were the last hope for galactic civilization. "Then we better get started," she said. The war room on Gateway Prime had become the nerve center for the entire galaxy's defense. Admiral Jake Morrison stood before the massive holographic display, watching red markers spread across the star map like a disease. Each red marker represented a world consumed by the dark tide. "How many?" he asked quietly. Lisa Grant looked up from her console, her face pale. 47 systems in the past week alone. The rate of consumption is increasing." Tom Bradley wiped sweat from his forehead as he worked on the portal modifications. "The network can't handle much more drain. Every world they consume weakens our ability to maintain the remaining connections." "Time until they reach the core worlds?" Jake asked. 18 days, Lisa replied. "Maybe less if they keep accelerating." The doors to the war room opened, and Captain Maria Santos entered with a group of colony leaders. Behind them came Ambassador Helen Clark, followed by representatives from every species in the Alliance. Even Veltek was there, his crystalline body dimmed with exhaustion. "The evacuation of Sector 7 is complete," Maria reported. "We lost contact with the transport ships from Kepler Colony. The dark tide got them," Kethmer said sadly. "I can feel it through the network. Their voices have gone silent." Dr. Kate Williams looked up from her research station. "I've been studying the pattern of their attacks. They're not just consuming randomly. They're following the strongest portal connections, working their way toward the source." "Toward us," Jake said. "Toward the heart of the network," Kate corrected. If they reach Gateway Prime, they can access every portal simultaneously. The entire galaxy would fall in hours. Tom Bradley stood up from his work. The good news is that the Artificial Universe project is almost ready. I've modified every major portal gate in the core systems. When we activate them all at once, they'll create a simulation space large enough to hold the dark tide. What about the bad news? Helen asked.
Yes.
The bad news is that someone needs to anchor the simulation from inside the network.
Yes.
They'll have to give up their physical body and become part of the portal system permanently. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what Tom was saying. Someone would have to sacrifice themselves to save the galaxy. I'll do it, Jake said immediately. Admiral, no, Maria protested. There has to be another way. There isn't, Tom said. The simulation needs a human consciousness as its foundation. Without that anchor, the artificial universe will collapse as soon as the dark tide tries to inhabit it, before anyone could argue further. Alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Amy Parker's voice came through the communication system from the orbital command station. All stations, we have incoming enemy contacts. Multiple dark tide vessels approaching the system. Jake ran to the nearest window. In the sky above Gateway Prime, he could see dark shapes moving between the stars. They looked like holes cut out of space itself, absorbing light and growing larger as they approached. How did they get here so fast? Lisa asked, checking her. Instruments. They didn't come through the portals, Kate realized. They're traveling through normal space, but they're moving faster than anything should be able to move. The first dark tide ship entered the planet's atmosphere. It was enormous, easily the size of a city, and it seemed to be made of pure darkness. As it descended, the lights in the ancient builder structures began to flicker. They're draining energy directly from the planet, Tom said. All portal activity is shutting down automatically to prevent total system failure. Don Murphy, the security chief, looked out at the approaching enemy ships. Our weapons won't work against them. What do? We activate the plan now, Jake decided. Tom, how long do you need? At least 6 hours to properly initialize the simulation, Tom replied. But with the portals shutting down, I can't coordinate with the other systems. Then we buy you 6 hours, Jake said. He activated the communication system. All human ships in the system, this is Admiral Morrison, form defensive positions around Gateway Prime. Protect the portal facilities at all costs. Through the windows. They could see human and allied ships taking position between the dark tide vessels and the planet. The Aurora, now commanded by Rick Stone, led the formation. But everyone knew their weapons were useless against the enemy. Wait, said Lieutenant Paul Adams, who had been working quietly in the corner. I think I have an idea. Paul was young, barely out of the academy, but he had proven himself to be brilliant with portal technology. What if we don't fight them directly? What if we use the portals themselves as weapons? What do you mean? Tom asked. The dark tide ships absorb energy. Right. What if we opened a portal directly to a star and channeled that energy at them? Tom's eyes widened. That's insane. The portal network isn't designed to handle that kind of power flow. But would it work? Jake asked. It might, Tom admitted. But it would probably destroy the portal gate in the process. Do it, Jake ordered. Paul's fingers flew over the portal controls. On the main display, they could see him opening a connection to the nearest star. The portal gate outside the facility began to glow brighter and brighter as stellar energy flowed. Through it. Target the lead dark tide ship, Jake commanded. A beam of pure starfire erupted from the portal gate, striking the nearest enemy vessel. For a moment, the dark tide ship seemed to waver, its dark surface rippling like water. Then it began to absorb the stellar energy, growing larger and more solid. It's not working, Lisa said. It's just making them stronger. No, wait, Paul said, studying his readings. Look at the energy patterns. They're changing. It's a stellar. Energy is too pure, too concentrated. They can't process it properly. He was right. The dark tide ship that had been hit was starting to break apart. Pieces of living shadow were falling away from its surface, dissolving as they fell through the atmosphere. Paul, you genius, Tom said. They can only absorb normal matter and energy. Pure stellar plasma is too concentrated for them to handle. Many more shots do we have? Jake asked. 3, maybe 4 before the portal gate burns out, Paul replied. Make them count. Over the next hour, the human forces used the modified portal gates to destroy 6 Dark Tide ships. But for every ship they destroyed, 2 more appeared. The enemy was adapting, learning to avoid the stellar beams. We can't keep this up, Rickstone reported from the Aurora. They're starting to target the portal gates directly. Tom, how much more time do you need? Jake asked. 4 hours minimum, Tom replied. But Admiral, I've been thinking. The anchor consciousness doesn't have to sacrifice themselves completely. If we set up the simulation correctly, they could exist in both the physical world and the digital universe. What does that mean exactly? Maria asked. It means whoever volunteers would become something new. Part human, part portal network, part artificial intelligence. They could appear anywhere in the galaxy instantly, but they'd never be fully human again. Jake considered this. It was still a huge sacrifice, but not necessarily a fatal one. Still volunteer, Admiral, came Amy Parker's voice through the communicator. We're detecting massive energy buildups throughout the system. The Dark Tide ships are preparing some kind of coordinated attack. Through the windows, they could see the enemy vessels positioning themselves around the planet. Dark energy was building between them, creating a web of shadow that began to close. Around Gateway Prime, they're going to drain the entire planet at once, Kate realized. Not just the energy, but all the matter too. They're going to consume everything. How long until they're ready? Jake asked. 15 minutes, Amy replied. Tom looked at his calculations. I can't finish the simulation in 15 minutes. Not properly. Then we do it improperly, Jake said. What's the minimum time you need for a basic simulation? 10 minutes, but it would be unstable. It might not hold the Dark Tide for more than a few hours. A few hours is better than nothing, Jake said. Do it. As Tom began the emergency initialization sequence, the Dark Tide's web of energy grew. Tighter around the planet, ancient builder structures were starting to lose power, their blue lights fading one by one. All human portal operators, this is Admiral Morrison, Jake announced over the galaxy-wide communication network. We need you to link your minds through the portal system, now. Across the galaxy, thousands of humans who operated portal gates began to connect their consciousness through the network. Paul coordinated the connections from Gateway Prime, his young face strained with concentration. It's working, Tom said. I can feel them all linking together. But Admiral, the simulation is going to need an anchor point. Someone has to go in first. Jake walked over to the main portal control console. Then I guess it's time for me to take the next step. As he placed his hands on the controls, he felt the minds of every human in the galaxy connecting through him. It was overwhelming, like trying to hold the ocean in a cup. But gradually, he began to understand the vast network that the builders had created. The simulation is stabilizing, Tom reported. But Admiral, once you fully connect, there's no going back. Jake looked around the room at his friends and colleagues. Take care of each other. Remember, we're not just fighting for humanity. We're fighting for everyone. Admiral Jake Morrison existed everywhere and nowhere at once. His consciousness flowed through the portal network like water through pipes, connecting thousands of human minds across the galaxy. He could see through the eyes of every portal operator, feel their thoughts, share their fears and hopes. The artificial universe was taking shape around him. Tom Bradley's calculations had been perfect, creating a digital space that felt real in every way. Stars burned in simulated skies, planets orbited in perfect harmony, and the laws of physics worked exactly as they should. It was a beautiful universe, complete and whole, but it was also empty. The Dark Tide needed life, needed the energy of living beings to sustain themselves. Jake understood this now, connected as he was to the vast network of knowledge the builders had left behind. Admiral, came Tom's voice through the network. The Dark Tide ships are starting their final attack. We have maybe 5 minutes before they drain Gateway Prime completely. Jake could sense the enemy vessels tightening their web of dark energy around the planet. The ancient builder structures were failing one by one, their lights going out forever. In the war room, his friends and allies worked desperately to maintain the portal connections. The simulation is ready, Jake announced, his voice echoing through every portal gate in the galaxy. "But I need to make contact with the Dark Tide. Directly. I need to show them what we're offering." "Admiral, that's too dangerous," Maria Santos protested. "If they consume your consciousness, the whole network could collapse." "It's the only way," Jake replied. "They need to understand that we're not trying to destroy them. We're trying to help them." Jake extended his awareness beyond the portal. Network. Reaching out toward the approaching Dark Tide vessels. The first contact was like touching ice mixed with fire. The Dark Tide entities were fragments of a dead universe. Pieces of reality that should not exist but refused to die. Images flooded Jake's mind. He saw the Dark Tide's original universe, beautiful and vast, filled with strange life forms and impossible physics. He saw its death, the slow collapse as entropy finally won. Leaving only scattered fragments of consciousness floating in the void, he felt their desperation, their endless hunger, their need to rebuild what they had lost. They were not evil, just lost and alone, trying to recreate their home using the only materials available. "I understand," Jake said, speaking directly to the Dark Tide entities. "You want to go home? But your home is gone. Let me show you something else." Jake opened the artificial universe to them, letting them see the simulated stars and planets, the perfect physics, the endless possibilities. It was not their original home, but it could be a new one. For a moment, the Dark Tide's attack paused. Jake could feel them examining the simulation, testing it, trying to understand what they were being offered. Then one of the Dark Tide entities spoke directly into Jake's mind. Its voice was like the sound of stars dying. "This is not real.
This
is illusion. It's as real as you make it," Jake replied. "In this universe, you can be anything you want. You can rebuild your civilization, create new life, explore infinite possibilities. You won't have to destroy our universe to do it." "Why?" the entity asked. "Why do you offer this?" "Because we understand loss," Jake said. "Because we know what it's like to be far from home. Because sometimes the best way forward is to help others find their way." Through the network, Jake could feel the support of every human connected to the system. Portal operators on distant worlds, colonists who had never seen an alien, soldiers who had fought against impossible odds. All of them lending their strength to his words. "We're not asking you to forget your home," Jake continued. "We're asking you to build a new one, together." The Dark Tide entities began to change. Jake could feel their attention shifting from the physical universe to the artificial one. Slowly, carefully, they began to enter the simulation. "It's working," Tom reported from Gateway Prime. "The Dark Tide ships are powering down. Their attack web is dissolving." Then Jake felt something else. The simulation was struggling to contain the Dark Tide entities. They were too powerful, too alien. The artificial universe was starting to collapse under the weight of their presence. "Tom, the simulation is failing," Jake announced. "I need more processing power." "We're already using every portal gate in the network," Tom replied. "There's nothing left to draw from." "Then we need to expand the network," Jake said. "Can you open the intergalactic portals?" Lieutenant Paul Adams looked up from his console, his young face pale with exhaustion. "Admiral, we don't know what's on the other side of those portals. There could be other Dark Tide entities, or worse. Or there could be help," Jake said. "We have to try." Paul's hand shook as he input the activation codes for the intergalactic portal network. These were connections the builders had made to other galaxies, pathways that had been sealed for thousands of years. The first portal opened to a galaxy filled with beings of pure energy. They had evolved beyond physical form, long ago, existing as patterns of thought and light. When they sensed the crisis through the portal network, they immediately offered their assistance. The second portal led to a galaxy where mechanical intelligences had replaced all organic life. These artificial beings understood the concept of simulation better than anyone. They began to help stabilize the artificial universe. One by one, more intergalactic portals opened. Each galaxy brought new allies, new resources, new ways of thinking about the problem. The portal network became something the builders had never imagined. A connection not just between worlds, but between entire universes of thought and possibility. With this expanded processing power, the artificial universe became stable again. The Dark Tide entities settled into their new home, beginning the long process of rebuilding their civilization in digital form. "Admiral," came a familiar voice through the network. It was Kethmer, the Valeth leader. "The dark tide has withdrawn from all physical systems. The galaxy is safe." Jake felt a wave of relief wash through the network. Thousands of worlds were celebrating the end of the crisis. But for Jake, the victory came with a price. He was no longer fully human. His consciousness existed primarily in the portal network now, spread across multiple galaxies. He could appear anywhere instantly, communicate with any connected world, but he could never again walk on solid ground or hold another person's hand. Admiral Maria called out in the war room on Gateway Prime, Can you visit us?" Jake focused his awareness on the main holographic display in the war room. Slowly, his image appeared as a shimmering projection of light and energy. "I'm here," he said, though his voice now came from everywhere at once. "I'm different, but I'm still here." Dr. Kate Williams studied his holographic form with scientific curiosity. "How do you feel?" "Like I'm everywhere and nowhere," Jake replied. "Honestly, I can see the entire galaxy at once. Feel the thoughts of everyone connected to the network. It's overwhelming, but also wonderful." "What happens now?" Helen Clark asked. "Now we explore," Jake said. "The network connects to hundreds of galaxies, thousands of civilizations. Humanity has become the bridge between all of them. We help them communicate, share knowledge, work together." "In the dark tide?" Rick Stone asked. "They're building new worlds in their artificial universe. Sometimes they ask for advice about recreating their old civilization. They're not our enemies anymore. They're our neighbors." Tom Bradley looked up from his instruments. "Admiral, the portal network is more stable than ever. With all the intergalactic connections active, we have enough processing power to maintain everything indefinitely." "Good," Jake said, "because we have a lot of exploring to do." Over the following months, humanity's role in the galaxy changed completely. They were no longer just another species trying to find their place. They had become the guardians of the portal network, the facilitators of intergalactic communication. New colonies were established on worlds in distant galaxies. Human children grew up speaking languages from dozens of different species. Boundaries between civilizations began to blur as knowledge and culture flowed freely through the portal network. Jake existed at the heart of it all. Part human, part machine, part something entirely new. He guided lost travelers, mediated disputes between species, and helped maintain the delicate balance that kept billions of worlds connected. Sometimes, late at night when the network traffic was light, he would manifest his holographic form on Gateway Prime and talk with his old friends. They would share stories of their adventures. "Remember the early days when they were just explorers looking for something new? Do you miss it?" Maria asked him one evening. "Being human, I mean." Jake considered the question carefully. "I miss some things. Walking in the rain, tasting food, sleeping. But I've gained something too. I can see the beauty of the entire universe at once. I can help civilizations that are millions of light years apart understand each other. I think this is what I was meant to become." As the years passed, humanity continued to expand through the portal network. Always exploring, always learning, always taking one step at a time into the unknown. They had found their place in the universe not as conquerors or rulers, but as bridges between worlds, helping others find their way home.